Thank you, Dr. Cummings. Dear family, friends, University of Tennessee College of Social Work faculty, and to the graduating class of 2009, you are an amazing group of women and men, and I am honored to stand here representing you this afternoon. Many of you I know well, some of you I don't. I wish I did though. I am always impressed by the people who are drawn to social work. I almost wish we could have a panel of representatives here to speak for us all today. We all come from such varied backgrounds and have different, but no less significant talents to offer to the field. Your passion, intelligence, and empathy speak to the incredibly rich and diverse value of the MSSW degree. Of course, those of us who have chosen this degree to launch us into our careers already know the myriad of opportunities available to social workers. But in case any of you are like, say, my father, who still asks now, what is it you'll be doing? Let me tell you. The short version is, social workers help people in their environment. This means that a social worker takes into account mental, social, physical, and environmental influences on a person and aims to improve any notable deficits in those areas so that that person may have a more fulfilling life. How social workers do this is where we get the longer definition. Social workers help individuals through counseling individuals, groups, or families, conducting research and advancing our knowledge, engaging in public advocacy, teaching social work students, supporting political movements, organizing political movements, supervising new social workers, developing and writing grant proposals, managing nonprofit organizations, or, as is often the case, a combination of all of the above. Social workers care for people in every phase of their life and for people from every walk of life. We work in schools, hospitals, mental health clinics, adoption agencies, senior centers, prisons, HIV/AIDS clinics, corporations, public social agencies, veterans hospitals, and military bases, just to name a few. And no matter how a social worker chooses to help others, he or she has a professional obligation to help those who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty, as laid forth in the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics. By the way, after the ceremony today, I encourage you to ask the family member, loved one, or friend you are supporting here today to recite the Code of Ethics core values back to you. I guarantee you they will know them. But I digress. Now that I've dazzled you all with the social worker's qualifications and value to society, I would like to address another significant point about our profession. How many of you, after a year, 2 years, some of you more than that, of graduate school, wrote your last paper, whizzed through your last presentation, had your final day at your field placement site, breathed a sigh of relief, and finally dared to start saying, out loud, not in front of the mirror, maybe that's just me, but that I am graduating with a master's degree in social work. Only to be asked, do you have a job? At which point you will manage to maintain that confident smile and say, no, not yet. Only to hear, it's a hard time to be looking for a job in this economy. Well, and you know what? It is. But here's something else. Hard times are when we are needed most. A social worker's duty is to help the underserved, and tough economic times like these call for the unique skill set only a social worker can bring. History supports this claim as well, as our century-old profession can attest. In our social policy and welfare class, we learned that prior to the progressive era, at the turn of the 20th century, there had been little to no public concern about poverty, and certainly no government involvement in amending this problem. Enter Jane Addams, pioneer social worker, community organizer and activist, who built settlement homes for immigrants in Chicago, and who was one of the first women to receive a Nobel Peace Prize for her promotion of peace during the First World War. And then there was the 1929 stock market crash and subsequent depression. Enter Frances Perkins, the first woman to hold a cabinet position in American history, Secretary of Labor to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt for his entire 12-year presidency, responsible for drafting much of the New Deal legislation in the 1940s, and also a social worker. In other words, times like those and times like these are made for social work. Now, all this is not to say, hooray for hard times, we'll be in business for a long time to come. There's a popular saying of a therapist to a client, which applies here, I believe. The therapist says to the client, "My job is to help you put me out of business." And that's the ultimate goal here, too. It's more to say that trained social workers like ourselves are in a unique position to help because of the profession's loyalty to historically isolated groups and its multi-dimensional approach to treatment. Social workers listen with compassion to those not expecting to be heard. They validate the worthiness of their clients' grievances by researching available options and sharing these resources. Problems are not resolved with Band-Aids. A deep cut requires thorough care to prevent infection and accelerate healing. With this in mind, social workers address all aspects of an issue in an effort to help clients as comprehensively as possible. By empowering one person, a ripple effect can occur and bring about greater change in society. As long as there is injustice, and I feel confident in saying that injustice is not on the verge of extinction at this point, social workers will be very much in need. There is still so much that can be accomplished to help those who are marginalized in society. Thankfully, the UT College of Social Work has equipped us with the tools necessary to be highly skilled social workers in this world that we live in. We've been challenged, encouraged, and supported, and we will carry into our careers the lessons we have learned. I hope that you will remember this day, how far you have come to be here, how hard you have worked, and how eager you are to get out there and give back what you've learned. Know that this is not the end point, however, but the beginning. As social workers, we adopt a lifelong learning philosophy and practice it so that we may continue to competently serve others in changing times. So enjoy today. Each of you has certainly earned it. Come tomorrow, we'll need to get back to work. Thank you.